Hey guys, we shall continue with the Z transform problems using properties. The sequence is x of n is a power n cos n pi by 2 into u of n. Okay, we shall try to solve this problem. So solution. So what is my aim here? I need to find its Z transform and ROC using appropriate properties of Z transform. Okay. So what I do is I'll assume this part as g of n. Okay, an intermediate signal g of n is equal to cos of pi by 2 into n u of n. So mind you, once you assign a part of the sequence of x of n to g of n, you should know its Z transform. You make sure that you know its Z transform. If you don't know, you have to solve its Z transform and then you have to apply in the later steps. Okay. So what is the Z transform of this? I had given a list of Z transform, right? So there we had Z transform of cos of n omega naught n, right? So cos of omega naught n into u of n, right? So Z transform of cos of omega naught n u of n. What is its Z transform? It is z square minus z into cos omega naught whole divided by z square minus 2z into cos omega naught plus 1, right? So, and its ROC is magnitude of z is greater than 1. Okay. Now here in this case, what is the value of omega naught? Omega naught is actually pi by 2. That we shall see later. Okay, fine. Now what happens to x of n? X of n becomes a power n into this part, and this part is g of n, right? So a power n into g of n. Now I take z transform on both sides. Take z transform on both sides. So z transform of x of n is equal to z transform of a power n g of n. So which property I need to use? What is the z transform of a power n x of n? It is nothing but x of z by a, right? Z transform of a power n x of n is what? X of z by a, right? What do you mean by this actually? This is nothing but we have the sequence x of n, right? I have to take its z transform. When I take its z transform, I get x of z. So in that x of z sequence, basically x of z is a function of z, right? So wherever z is there, I need to replace it by z by a. I repeat again, the statement of this kind is nothing but I mean to say x of z by a is nothing but we will be knowing x of n, right? So I have to take its z transform. I end up with x of z. In that x of z equation, wherever z is there, I have to replace it by z by a, which ends up with x of z by a. This is the meaning here. Okay. Now, so z transform of x of n is what? X of z, which is equal to, what is this? A power n g of n. Z transform of a power n x of n is x of z by a. So z transform of a power n g of n is g of z by a, right? Okay. Now how do we get g of z by a? It is nothing but what? I know g of n, right? What is g of n? G of n is cos pi by 2 n u of n, right? So I have to take its z transform, which I end up with g of z. In that g of z, wherever z is there, I have to replace it by z by a, so that I end up with g of z by a. Okay. Now, so what is g of n? G of n is cos of pi by 2 n u of n, right? And what do you take z transform on both sides? Take z transform on both sides. So what do I end up? So g of z, z transform of g of n is g of z is equal to, so we have to apply this, right? So z square minus z into cos of omega naught. But what is omega naught? It is pi by 2 whole divided by z square minus 2z cos of omega naught, but omega naught is pi by 2 plus 1. And what is cos pi by 2? It is 0, right? And cos pi by 2 is 0. This end up with z square whole divided by z square plus 1 with, what is its ROC? Magnitude of z is greater than 1, no? Right? Okay. So now I got g of z, which is z square divided by z square plus 1 with magnitude of z is greater than 1. But what I need is g of z by a, which is x of z. And this is my ultimate result which I want to find, right? Fine. So since I got g of z, I can get g of z by a. So in the sense, in this equation, wherever z is there, I have to replace it by z by a, including the ROC. In ROC also I have to replace z by a. Okay. So what do I get? X of z is equal to g of z by a. So g of z at z equal to z by a. So x of z is equal to, so it is z by a whole square whole divided by z by a whole square plus 1 with magnitude of z by a is greater than 1. Right? Okay. If I simplify this, in the sense, if I multiply a square here, so I can take a square common in the denominator. If that a square goes to the numerator, this a square and the other a square cancels out. So I end up with x of z is equal to z square divided by z square plus a square. If I take this to the other side, ROC becomes magnitude of z is greater than magnitude of a. Okay, so this is the Z transform and ROC of the sequence x of n. Fine. Okay, we shall take up one more sequence. X of n is n into a power n minus 1 u of n. So we shall try to solve this. So solution. So I can write it as x of n is equal to n. I separate this a power n into a power minus 1 u of n. So I can write it as, I will rearrange this. So a power minus 1 I will write it first, and then I will write it as n into a power n u of n. Okay, now I'll take z transform on both sides. So take z transform on both side. So what do I get? Z transform of x of n is equal to z transform of a power minus 1. I'll take it out because it's a constant, and z transform of n into a power n u of n. Okay, now I'm not going to solve this again. In problem 5, I guess we have solved this problem. So we had x of n is equal to n into a power n u of n. Okay, and its z transform x of z was, it is a into z divided by z minus a whole square with magnitude of z is greater than magnitude of a. Okay, we'll apply directly here. So what do I get? X of z is equal to a power minus 1 into, what is the z transform of n into a power n u of n? It is a into z divided by z minus a whole square with magnitude of z is greater than magnitude of a, and this 2 cancels out. So I end up with x of z is equal to z divided by z minus a whole square with magnitude of z greater than magnitude of a. So I am not solving this problem again because we have taken it up in problem 5. You can refer that video. Okay.